Welcome to Transformations with Tara Sutphen. Tara Sutphen is the author of Blame It on Your Past Lives, Soul Agreements, and The Abenda Chronicles. Grammy-nominated audios, videos, and MP3 series. You can find these MP3 series now at TaraInsight.com.
Welcome to Transformations with Tara. This is Tara Sutphen. And my guest today, besides Jason D. McKean, the voice of Om, over 1 million recordings sold throughout the world, and Dr. Donna Marks. And she is an expert in addiction, solutions, and recovery. And we're just so happy that you're coming on today, Dr. Donna Marks.
Thank you so much for having me on your show. I'm very excited to be here.
Yes. Yeah. So how did you get into this work?
I was born into it.
You were born into it. Yeah. It just kept bringing you in like, okay.
Yeah, I was born into a family with addictions, and I developed my own over the years. And I've had family with addictions, spouses with addictions, and I've treated a lot of people with addiction. And so I've learned a lot from that lifetime of experience. I used to think it was a curse, why can't I get away from this?
Right.
And now I realize it's a blessing. I realize that, the reason all that happened is because I have a mission and purpose, and it's to help people who are suffering from addiction, help them to understand what it is. It's nothing to be ashamed of. It's almost like we get programmed to be addicted. And, then there's a way out, and it's not as hard as people think.
Oh, I love that. I love that. It's just not as hard as we all make it to be, right?
Right.
Right. And I think it's just incredible that, we can't get away from whatever it is that we're supposed to be doing in life. I mean, whereas you finally woke up and saw, oh, I'm supposed to tell everybody this and help them, accomplish it.
Right. I really thought that, why can't, why is my life miserable? And I was actually sober for a long time and relapsed because I just said, I've done everything. I've gone all over the world on this spiritual quest, and I've done everything I've been told to do. I've been in tons of therapy, and I'm really not much better. And, I realized what was missing in all my recovery. And I had to have a really deeper transformation than I had previously had. And then during that process, that's when it all made sense. Like, it's not that any of this is bad. In fact, I personally believe that I chose it. I chose this life. And once I had that shift in my perception, it all made sense, because how can I really help someone if I haven't struggled with the same problem? Mm-hmm. How can I help someone if I haven't realized that, one addiction just transfers over to another? How can I help someone if I haven't been involved with people with addiction and felt that side of it? And including, children and spouses. And how can I help my patients if I don't have that full spectrum? And so, all of that turned into my book, Exit the Maze: One Addiction, One Cause, One Cure. But it was a process. And once I realized this is all for a reason and my purpose, it really helped me to just jump on the boat and go full force.
Yeah. Now, have you written 3 books and you're coming out with a 4th, or you've written 2 books and coming out with a 3rd?
So I've written 2. The first one was Learn, Grow, Forgive, A Path to Spiritual Success. And I wrote that one because I feel that it's a more general type of thing. It doesn't just address addiction. I think a lot of us, we are stuck in patterns, and then we struggle with those patterns, and then we give up. And so I think and I'm talking about relationship patterns mainly in the book. And so what I talk about in the book is, rather than saying that you're insane to keep doing this, say that you're learning and you're growing. And the growth comes from understanding the roots of those patterns in relationships, and to learn how to love ourselves and learn how to forgive, which is spiritual success.
Right.
You can go to I've been up to the mountaintops and everywhere in Peru and everything, but until it's in the heart, that we let go and we forgive, and we learn to love ourselves and others better. and healthier ways, that's spiritual success.
Right. And to truly maybe look into people and everybody's fighting something, right?
I think that things are designed to be addictive. You don't need to have that much alcohol in a bottle of alcohol. The content doesn't need to be that high. There's so much processed sugar in foods. And, when you eat them, you want, your brain wants more. And, video gaming and pornography and all these things, that gambling, they're not designed for moderation.
Yeah.
They're designed to get you hooked. That's the whole point. So, it's really not our fault that we do get hooked. And you combine that with this, what I call the invisible hole that so many people carry, this sense of emptiness, like what's missing, and so we're always trying to fill that emptiness. Of course, that emptiness just keeps growing and growing and growing and going. And, then we struggle with it, and that's when we give up. So it's important to never give up, which,
is that something that we're born with, that hole, that emptiness that we look to fill?
I didn't hear you. I'm sorry.
It is, are we born with that hole, that emptiness?
No, I think we're born perfect. And then our environment, it either feels safe and loving and nurturing, which gives us a sense of fullness and completion. Or, things happen. And one of the things that is very important for me to convey is I don't blame anybody, that we're not blaming parents. We're not blaming anything. I mean, things just happen and we have to learn how to do it better. So that's the key here, is not to blame, but things do happen. There is trauma. And if those traumas don't get addressed and healed, that's where that feeling of what's wrong with me, how come they don't love me, how come that person's so cruel to me, how come, there's not enough food and not enough warmth and no affection, and how come I'm being screamed at, or how come I'm being abused, there's something wrong with me. And that's where that feeling of I'm not lovable, I'm not okay first starts. And that's when but when I feel okay when I'm eating this lollipop, or I feel okay when I'm smoking this cigarette, because then my brain that's so disturbed by all of that gets kind of numbed out, and I get that temporary sense of satisfaction.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Right. Yeah. And that's it, isn't it? The temporary. Yeah, it's just
a quick fix in place of the long-term love.
Right. And it's all a viewpoint. It's just change, right? We all just need to snap into it, snap into the change. But it's hard, it's easy to say and another to do. But so what's the new book now coming out?
So the second book I wrote was The Exit That Makes One Addiction, One Cause, One Cure. And that is being revised. And that's going to come out in December. That's the target date anyhow. As we all know, there's some shortages of things, so it's not 100%, but they will be available on my website. And then the third book is The Healing Moment, 7 Keys to Turn Messes into Miracles. And that's basically targets, we get reactive, something happens and we think it's bad. We're perceiving it as negative, and how to take all that situation and turn it into a miracle.
Mm-hmm. Oh, I love that. Love it.
Thank you.
Really great. Great viewpoints. Great, processing. That's beautiful. Yes. Processing. Yeah, I love that.
Everything is in the mind, so once we realize, and I explain that in my books, once we realize that it's our mind that's doing us in, it's our mind that's saying, oh, this is so hard, this is so difficult. But when we start saying, I like it, it's a challenge and I'm going to grow from this. Right. And, or every time my addiction says, oh, I'm missing my cigarettes. I was a chronic smoker for 20 years, so, well, I have to have them back again, and I relapse and start smoking again. Once I realize that mind is really just a voice, it has nothing to do with me and who I really am. And I just go, okay, well, I understand you want your candy or your cigarette or whatever, or your drink, but let's go do this instead, because this will really make you feel good about yourself, not just good for the moment.
Right.
What do you think that people resist most as far as that change? Is it the actual, is it the physical addiction, or is it coming to an awareness that that it's on their shoulders to make the change, or to be aware that it's them that can make the change. What do you think they resist most?
They resist. Most people resist change because there's fear that they're not even aware of usually. But underneath the change is, well, what if I don't like my life? Or what if I'm, miserable? I've done this before and I was miserable. Well, that's because they were listening to the same voice. Once we learn how to access the voice of love, which is what we really are, we're really loving, kind, gentle, beautiful people that are here to play and have fun and have a good time. And people turn into miserable human beings and sick human beings, but we're not born that way. That's not our true nature. So once we access that part of ourselves, and we don't do that from, medicating our feelings, we do that by embracing that we're human, that we make mistakes, that's okay. And we learn how to love ourselves if we didn't get that naturally growing up. Those of us that have become addicted did not get that naturally growing up, not enough of it anyhow. And so we have to learn how to reparent ourselves. And it's not just through, 12-step meetings and it's not just through, spiritual transformations. It's through actions.
Mm-hmm.
We have to, I love to tell the story of, let's pretend you have a new baby and the baby starts crying in the other room. And it's the middle of the night and you're exhausted. You don't just yell out there, "Oh, I love you so much." You get up and you take care of the baby, and that feels good. You're doing your role. So we have to do that for ourselves if we want to be happy. We have to learn how to eat healthy, meet our needs, take care of ourselves, have hobbies, have interests, take healthy foods into our bodies. We have to learn how to do the things for ourselves that we're missing. And I can always tell when I'm working with someone, whether it was nutrition that was missing, healthy habits that were missing, affection. It's always easy to see with someone what was missing.
Yes. Yeah. And as the Chinese say, chop wood, carry water.
Yes.
Where you're having a problem, but it was a metaphor, of that progress actually, moves your life, because we're on the earth to move. That's what our big thing is. And so the minute that we get into stasis or get too far into our head, I think that's the problem, where, become victimized.
Yes.
Yeah. And it's not working harder, it's working smarter.
Exactly.
Mm-hmm.
But looking to change that inner dialogue, right? Where that voice, the one that would say either you are worthy or you're not worthy, right? Where one, looks to, like, is that the source? Is that what you would feel like everything leads to, like just changing that up so that someone can make healthier choices for themselves?
That's the beginning, yes. That my source is not that voice that tells me I'm not okay. My source is the voice of love that says I was born a divine being. I'm still a divine being, but I have free will. I have complete free will. I can do whatever I want, whenever I want, basically. And, I can listen to that voice that tells me to keep doing the next wrong thing. Or I can say, that didn't work out too well for me. I don't think I want to do that anymore. Right. It's not getting me anywhere other than, bad health, bad relationships, low self-esteem, weight gain, or whatever the case may be. And so I really don't really think I want to listen to that voice anymore. I think I want to listen to the one that says, that I'm perfectly okay. I was born okay, and I can live like a person who loves myself, and I will be okay.
Are your books, are they pretty autobiographical as far as you use yourself as an example, since you have lived the experience of it, right? It's like
I talk about it in the introduction, and then I sometimes use myself as examples. And then I've also, disguised people that I've worked with, their names and all kinds of things to not, to protect their identity. But yes, I've definitely use those as cases, mine and others, as examples, because I feel that when people get a visual picture of what I'm trying to describe in words, that they best understand.
Do you find that most people go through like a whole series of addictions? Like if they haven't healed that source within themselves, that source of self-love or of feeling worthy, do they just jump from one to the other?
Yeah,
do you
that's why
find that?
I'd say there's just one addiction, and it is that whole. So what I noticed about myself and what I see all the time in treatment centers is that someone will go in for, let's say, a substance abuse, because that usually gets us to, addiction faster than the others. And then, so they give up, let's say they give up cocaine, and then they start, they get addicted to caffeine, or they get addicted to porn. Or let's say they give up, I worked with one woman who had a food addiction. She had gastro bypass surgery. And as soon as she got out, she became addicted to wine every night. And then she had to go to treatment for alcoholism. By the way, that's a very common thing that they don't always warn people about, that if you have gastric bypass surgery, you should not drink. But it switches around. Someone on methamphetamine starts gambling, or someone gives up alcohol and they get into a program and they wind up acting out and having sex addiction with people in the room. So it's it's like until we really recognize that there's just one addiction, and so when you call for help, you don't have to find a gambling center. You don't have to find an alcohol center. You don't have to find, what food, it's addiction, I'm powerless over addiction. And if we could start there, it would be so much better for everybody, because what happens is, they get out and, you feel good when you're in treatment, because you have the support system, you're taking care of yourself. The love is there, okay? And then you go home to the same environment, or maybe you even went to treatment here in Florida, like so many people do, and then you go back to another state, and that is gone. So until people, recognize that this is about learning to love yourself, and when you get home, you're going to have to push. You're going to have to get up out of bed in the middle of the night, and get to your meetings, make new friends, love yourself, take care of yourself, get your therapy or whatever. But it's not just about, okay, now I'm fixed and now I can go home and do the same thing and everything will be fine, because that person will either relapse or pick up the next addiction.
Right. So there are different steps, right? Becoming loving to yourself, because, so many people loathe themselves. Even the most amazing, magnificent people who have incredible lives seem to say they never like themselves.
Yes, this is very true for many people, but until we fire that voice that says you're worthless, you're not good enough, you made so many mistakes, you have no right to be happy, until we fire that voice and embrace our divinity.
Yeah.
Because it doesn't do any good to listen to that voice. I mean, we are here for a very short period of time. So you have a choice. You can listen to all the negativity and have all the negative feelings that go along with it. Right. Or you can say, well, even if there is no God, I do believe in love. So I'm going to be the love that I want. I'm going to express the love that I want. I am not going to listen to this negative voice anymore. I'm only going to think good things, and change channel whenever, AM, FM.
Right.
FM's feel good, AM is get out of here. And just change that channel when that tape is running. And eventually, I tell people it's like going to the gym. You don't go to the gym, work out all night, and look in the mirror the next day and go, oh, transformation.
Yeah.
You keep going, and it's a reasonable amount of exercise, and you keep going and you keep going, whether you feel like it or not. You get up in the middle of the night and take care of that baby, and then the good self-esteem comes.
Right. The progression. Get going.
Yes, exactly.
Chop wood, carry water. Let's do it. But yeah,
I like that metaphor, but I like to be more positive, like carry love, chop out the negative thoughts and carry love.
Right. And change the viewpoint, change the story.
Right.
Change your own personal story. How do you want your own personal story to, progress?
Well, embrace the one that you're here to do.
Yeah, that too.
Sometimes we think, well, what's the point of all this? Well, what's your mission? What's your purpose? Usually it's something that you haven't liked.
Yeah.
Or
Yeah.
maybe it's something that you knew you loved your whole life. Those are the fortunate people, you know, they knew their whole life. I mean, I did know all my whole life I wanted to be a therapist. I just didn't want to be an addictions therapist.
Right. Right. But you became great at it. See, and
Right.
the thing, you step into what you need to, who people need.
Right. And I believe every addiction can be turned into a successful career. You know, people with substance abuse problems, you know, make great substance abuse counselors, or they can write about it. I mean, there's so much self-help there from people who have transformed this curse into a blessing. And, you know, you take a gambler, I mean, they're great with numbers, you know, they can do a number, you know, go into the field of numbers, many levels, whether it's statistician or the stock market or whatever, and, you know, turn that all into success. So, you know, I notice prescription addicts that I've worked with, they know more about drugs, legal prescription drugs than most pharmacists, you know, so channeling all that energy into a positive, fulfilling career, and any addiction can be done. I worked with a person one time who had a sugar addiction, and she wound up writing a cookbook on sugar-free desserts. And I've tried many of them. They are delicious. So, you know, no matter what's going on, you know, rather than spending all that time of fighting it and I want it, I can't have it kind of thing, start doing something with it that helps other people. And that is love. And that feels really good.
Yeah, I've always said, you know, like to people like who smoke, say, you know, I would say become an oxygen addict, you know, that everything that you want in life is oxygen, you know.
Yes.
You just change it up.
Absolutely.
You know, drink water and some ozone therapy, whatever it is that you need oxygen, just everything's about oxygen.
Yes.
A tree, be in the middle of trees and think you're getting a lot of oxygen, you know, just anything, just start psyching up your mind.
Great. Yeah, I like that.
Yeah, because I mean, you know, because it takes away oxygen, it's taking away things from you. Like, don't let it take away from you anymore. Yeah.
Right. You know, the addictions drain us of our essence and our energy. So when we replace the addiction with something like you just described, or transforming the addiction into something positive, then we are draining the addiction of any value to us and replacing it with self-love.
Yeah.
Do you find that your, you know, how you speak of this to your patients, clients, do you spiritualize or add a spiritual element to you know, how you speak to them, so that they're able to locate that divinity within themselves? You know, if you call something divine, you know, a divine spark within, right? It's already you're spiritualizing the work. Is that something that, you know, everyone is ready to see in themselves, or is that a process too of opening up to that?
Well, I don't push anything on anyone, but you know, because I think that people should find their own sense of spirituality. But yes, it is a part of therapy. And I find two things. Most people who have addictions are already spiritual, and they have been looking, you know, they've been looking for spirituality through the addiction. It's just misplaced. You know, they're trying to get that feeling. And, you know, when we are feeling connected spiritually, we have that feeling. I wake up with it. I go to sleep with it. I am on fire all the time. So the thought of dousing out that natural high with drugs just doesn't appeal to me at all anymore. But that was a process like I described earlier. So most people that I work with addictions are already spiritual, but many of them are agnostic, and they say, I don't believe in God. You know, how could God let, you know, these kinds of things like what's happening in Ukraine, how could God be, you know, let that happen? Well, God gave us free will and love does not take away free will. So, you know, it's up to us to deal with this and to keep raising our consciousness on the planet. But most people who are agnostic aren't really non-believers so much as they don't believe what they were taught in childhood. They are rejecting religion. And so when I help them to distinguish between their concept of their own personal, I say, well, if there was a God, what would that be to you? And almost everybody will say, well, I think it's kind of like nature, or, beauty, or, that when you've won something you've worked for all your life, that feeling you get. And I say, okay, well, what's wrong with that? Like, can it just be love? Can it just be appreciation? Can it just be all those good things, And
Yeah.
then people start thinking, well, yeah, it could, I said, well, that's for you to decide, nobody can dictate to you. I think that so many people rejected the sense of, we're shameful and we're evil and we're sinners. And, I've been teaching A Course in Miracles for 34 years, and it undoes all that. It says we are not sinners, we are not evil, we are love. And what's happened is that, this ego has separated us from loving ourselves and one another. And that, we've certainly made mistakes, and all we need to do is correct them, because if God was so mad at us, he'd wipe us off, so he hasn't done that. We are here to experience being human. And through that process, we can either regress or we can progress. It's up to us, but there's no judgment on it one way or another. It's just either you're going to succeed and feel good, or you're not going to, and you're going to feel miserable, or someplace in between.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. That part of forgiveness too, of
Yeah.
being able to forgive yourself, that
Yeah.
can be incredibly difficult.
Yes.
Well,
But it doesn't have to be, of course, right? It's like, not putting any energy on, it's like whether it's going to be impossible or not. It's something that one, it's a very personal experience, and you go to the depths of your own struggle to recognize your own humanness, your own resilience, an ability to want to connect as deep as possible with the divine, and to to activate that love within, and I think that if one is agnostic, or it's like they may not, I always think of it as trying to put God in a box anyway, like
Right.
religion and all, and it's like,
Right.
how do you do that?
Right.
You don't. And
Exactly.
it's like you look to connect, you look to be connected to purpose, to your own natural talents, your own ability to experience joy,
Right.
and to experience community, the blessings of being connected to others and all. It's like, connection. It's like, looking to be a part of that. So
Absolutely.
but forgiveness, that is like, it's key in being able to value your own spirit and the journey that we all take.
Yes, the lack of personal forgiveness is what keeps us walled in.
Mm-hmm.
Keeps love out of ourselves and out from other people. So what we have to do is recognize, like, what am I getting out of holding on to these shame-based feelings about myself? What am I getting out of that? Because I can say, well, God will never forgive me for this horrible thing. And I personally made some horrible mistakes. And I can say, this one is unforgivable. But, what am I getting out of that? Because that is diminishing my usefulness to other people and my mission. That is not helping me be free. So if I really want to forgive myself, of course, I need to make amends and, acknowledge it to myself. And if I've hurt someone else, to that person, and to correct the mistake, as the Course in Miracles teaches. It's just a mistake. It's not an evil sin. And a lot of us do things, in our addictions, or even when we're young. I know, like, I had a child when I was 16, and I was divorced by the time I was 18, and I was not a good parent at all.
Mm-hmm.
I really, really was not a good parent, and I felt like that was unforgivable. But, in my process, I have certainly acknowledged it, and done what I could to correct it. You know, it takes two. And, you know, we're not there yet. I hope someday we will be. But, you know, these are the kinds of things like, if I hang on to that, how am I helping anybody? I'm not helping myself. I'm not helping the person. I'm not helping humanity. Yeah. What I need to do is face it and do better and correct it, and use that experience to have compassion for people who struggle with their emotions. You know, there's reasons we struggle with our emotions. And when there's been a lot of trauma in somebody's life, they are not emotionally regulated in a healthy way. And that, just like going to the gym, takes time and work to practice, and getting a lot of help. So
I love mind programming, you know, because I'm a mind programmer. So as a hypnotherapist, it's like, put it into your subconscious mind. Just keep working at it. Keep it going. Put it in, you know, morning, in, and night if you have to, you know, change your viewpoint. Change your viewpoint. You're gonna, and if it's embedded into your brain, you're gonna be able to someday believe it.
Yes. Yes.
Because it doesn't take the first time. It's not the second time.
Right. Well, you don't ever have to. You don't ever have to believe it. You just be that.
Yeah.
And then
right. Let it be. Yeah, I don't say let it go. Let it be.
Right.
Stop processing and get going.
Right. I'm just going to pretend like I'm forgiving myself.
Right.
And that way I won't be dwelling on it anymore.
Well, yeah, no dwelling. Yeah, and it's changing your routines up, and yeah, and it is like frustrating, you know, because you see the caffeine and the wine and the alcohol and the cannabis now, you know, I mean, all of it, you know, it's always been there. But the thing is that, you know, how are you going to make that choice? You know, you're like a little kid in a candy store. Well, you know, be mindful.
Yes, to choose to do something. I'm not going to deprive myself, but instead of poisoning myself, I'm going to choose to do something else that is loving.
That's right.
So rather than, you know, smoking my cigarettes, I'm going to go for a little walk around the block, you know, or go plant some flowers, or have a delicious cup of tea with my favorite honey in it. You know, I mean, there's so many options, you know.
Right. So, we had a little nephew who died when he was, you know, he wasn't that little and he wasn't that young, but he was
33.
Early 30s. Oh. But whenever he was hungry, instead of choosing to eat something nutritious, he would go for a Snickers bar,
right,
or candy. And the thing is that you can't live that way. And he got cancer, a very rare form of cancer, and he you know, he would call me because I became his person who he checks in with every day. And so he would say, you know, I ate a salad, you know, and I would be like, oh my God, that's so great. And if laughing could have been a cure, we would have, you know, definitely he would have lived. But yeah, but it was late, you know, it was really late for him. You know, you have to start when you start. It's like now. It's a now thing. Just do it. You know, Nike, just do it.
Yeah. Yes. One of the things that I talk about in my book is that, you know, the addiction is a pandemic problem, and it's at the root of almost all unnatural deaths. And a lot of times people go, what? But when you break it down, you know, I have all the statistics in the book, but when you take heart disease, you know, that's the #1 killer. And, you know, there is a genetic component. There's a genetic component to a lot of illnesses, including addiction. But, you know, when you're born, there's no gene that says, where's my alcohol? Where's my cigarette? You know, that happens. You know, once you try it, you're screwed. But, you know, you're not really born with something that makes you do it to begin with. But let's take heart disease. You know, most heart disease is caused by alcohol, drugs, sugar, or trans fat, which leads to arteriosclerosis. And, you know, you can go right down the line: stroke, kidney disease, diabetes 2, you know, all the cancer, all the major killers are rooted in these alcohol, drugs, sugar, and trans fats that have been consumed to the point of causing permanent damage to your physical being. And so this is like, people do not want to hear this, particularly pharmacy and medicine. However, we've got to hear it ourselves, because we cannot turn our responsibility for our health over or our happiness over to these things anymore.
Right.
Because they are killing us.
It's going to nothing.
I'm glad you mentioned your nephew, because that is a wonderful example.
Yeah. And he didn't drink caffeine. He didn't drink, I don't even think he drank soda pop that much, but I know he didn't drink alcohol
there's no caffeine, alcohol.
But
sugar was a thing.
Sugar was his thing. Right.
Sugar is a very addictive drug. And again, it's designed to be that way. You could put cane sugar, you could put all kinds of sugar as sweeteners, but they're not as addictive, so they don't do it. Processed sugar is highly addictive. You get the same hit as a lot of other drugs when you eat it, particularly when that's your primary source of nutrition. The heart rate increases, the brain goes more. It's the same thing as any other addiction.
Oh yeah, no, he used to do a whole skit for every holiday, do a skit on how Aunt Tara's house didn't have any sugar in it, and how and that would be like the one time I would like open up my sugar thing is at Thanksgiving. The kids could make like Christmas cookies and different cookies and things and pies. And he was thinking, oh my God, there's nothing in Aunt Tara's house, nothing. Beg the boys, the older boys, please, let's go to the store. Let's walk. I've got to get some candy.
Yeah.
It used to be this whole thing. And
right.
a whole skit on it.
Well, I mean, the kids are programmed, watching TV and sometimes in their own families. Food is the fix. Wow. So like here again, it's our responsibility to teach children, that there's nothing really bad out there. But if you have to be careful, because there are things that are designed to get you hooked on them, and that would be bad for you. So, the proper nutrition first, sugar second, and very, very limited amounts of it if you're going to do it at all.
Right. And then he had a brother who was, who had a brain tumor when he was 5. Oh. And so he was the little brother. And so he was the well child. And so there was a lot of guilt attached to that.
Oh, of course.
So him dying of cancer, he wasn't going to mess around. Like
kind of ate him alive. Huh?
It kind of ate him alive. Yeah. Yeah.
Hmm.
Yeah. So, and he wouldn't listen to reason, I guess. And I guess that's most people, isn't it? They won't listen to reason themselves.
Yeah. Some people are not interested. Yeah. This brings me to what I talk about. I don't know if you saw the movie, The Body Snatchers. It's an old movie.
Yes.
Both versions.
Classic.
Yeah, I haven't seen it. I don't think so.
This beautiful flower descended upon the planet, and they picked it up and they put it in their houses. And then suddenly they have turned into zombies and they don't even care. Mm-hmm. And, eventually it takes over the whole planet. Mm-hmm. And, I like that to addiction. Like, this is such a beautiful bag of candy, such a wonderful, cigarette, makes me feel so relaxed, just like in the commercial, the Salem and the river and the guy standing there, it's so romantic, and have your bubbly and have your beer. And, it's just so romanticized and so glorious and so wonderful. And then people get addicted, and the thought of stopping it, or they believe it'll be so miserable without, they just kind of go along, I don't really like it that I have to have 4 drinks every night, but it's okay.
I want to relax. That's what I hear. I just have to relax. Well, that's not the way to relax, really.
Tara, you have seen The Body Snatchers.
I have?
Yeah, it's that movie where they...
I don't remember.
Come on, it's a classic.
Not in my consciousness.
It's a classic.
I didn't keep it if I did see it. Now I only remember the Cherry 2000 doll. I don't know what that was called, but Cheyenne was always checking the back of my neck. One of my children. to make
see
sure
if
I
you
was
had
a
a plug.
real mother. Yeah, I was a real mother. She'd like kind of just move her hand back, kind of look in. Yeah, and check my neck.
I don't really like scary shows, but The
this?
Body Snatchers was certainly a good psychological message.
Oh yeah. Plus, on that societal level too, of a recognition, when enough people recognize something and they don't just go along to get along with it's like, well, it's just how it is, but where they do something to change it up, and I think the environments, the support in our own environment, if one is wanting to change up the like their diets, it's like they have to be proactive in it, and do you find that it can be easier for like either single people to change things up, or as far as within a union, a partnership, a marriage, there can be resistance with a partner, right? It's like I got to stop drinking, but my wife or my husband, they're locked in to it. How do I make a choice for myself?
Or they nag them about it.
Right. Well, yes, to both. I want you to change. I don't like it that you have a drinking problem. Okay, you quit drinking. I liked you better before when you were drinking. You're not nice now. Yeah. So it's like, what first thing I try to do, and when the type of therapy I do now is I don't do like individual therapy, like I used to. Like now I just do concierge, which means like you bring your support system in with you, and everybody changes together. And that's why it's a growing together thing. Now sometimes people won't. And then I have to say, well, you have to be the one for change in your family, and just let go of everybody, what they think of you. You'll get better every day. Every day you'll be better and better. And if you're going through a temporary mood thing, we'll work on that. And, just like we're talking about at the beginning of the show, but the support system, particularly with celebrities, is really the enabling system, because it's one thing when someone kind of, is hitting bottom and they're losing, their self-worth, their self-income, and they're losing the prestige that they might have in the community or in their career, or even in their family. That's one thing. But with celebrities, the last thing that the enablers are going to do is say, we don't like you high all the time. They're like, where are the drugs? Where are we going now? When are we getting on your plane? And when's the next party? And so it's particularly hard for celebrities to see when they're surrounded by all this reinforcement. I often say, if people were video filmed when they were using, and nodding out or off the wall or crazy out of their minds on alcohol or drugs, they would never ever use again. Because what happens is, that there's such a disconnect, and either they're in a blackout, or they have amnesia, or they just can't see what addiction does to them. And that's one of the problems. And the other problem is, when you're up on a pedestal, you can't let your fans down by admitting you're weak and you have a problem. You can't admit that you have an addiction. There's so much negative focus. I mean, I believe addiction is a blessing in disguise. It is a doorway to heaven. It is a stairway to heaven. But, if you keep hanging on to it, it's also the stairway to hell. Which way do you want to go? So I don't think anybody really cares anymore. I think people are, educated enough to understand that addiction is a serious problem. And a lot of times the people that have the most problem with the word need to look at their own. So, enablers, it's a good point you're bringing up. It's really can be, it's not just a personal illness, it's a family or support system illness as well.
Yeah.
So there's a lot more grace out there in if someone admits like a problem, as far as like, seek help, go get help, rather than it just being a stigma that it's like, oh my God, it's like,
Absolutely.
there's more understanding about it.
Yes,
well, I
there
think
is
that we
more
see it
understanding.
everywhere. I think that it's come out into the open, in America. We definitely have open, all the people are wanting to lose weight. They're wanting to, and people are seeking help, and people who are drinking too much. But you look at all these, like, and I hear it all the time with people too, as far as they condone if their children are drinking. It's like, oh, it's just a stage. Yeah, but it's a 3 or 4 year old stage. That means that 3 or 4 years of drinking leads to alcoholism. And, you may not, this person might completely change into someone else. It has to be a parent that says, hey, this isn't really good for you. You really should.
I have an issue with parents who say one thing and do another. Don't drink, but watch me do it.
Yeah, that too.
It's really a disconnect.
Right.
And how we just neutralize all that, like, well, this is just normal adult behavior to have a couple of drinks,
Yeah. Right.
But an adolescent has a couple of drinks, it's going to have an entirely different effect on their brain than a full-grown adult.
Right.
And why does anybody need to drink anyhow? I mean, you say that and people get really freaked out.
Right.
But if you think about it, like, why? What's wrong with just being the way you are?
Right. Well, I mean,
it starts off as social anxiety. Everybody's got anxiety. I said, just call it what it is. There's no such thing in my book as anxiety. The only reason to have anxiety is to take pills for it or substances for it. So, don't say you have anxiety, say I'm scared. Then you can deal with it. I'm scared of going to this party. It makes me uncomfortable. I don't know anybody. Okay, how can we deal with that? One thing I suggest is go up to the other person who looks uncomfortable and out of place and start talking to them. Then you won't feel scared and uncomfortable and a wallflower anymore, So, but these are things that we can teach our kids.
Yeah.
Well, that's where it has to be taught, because it's like, in society, right? It's like, like being a man, right? And it's like expressing feelings, emotions, fear. God forbid.
Yes.
I'm not afraid. I'm a man.
Right.
And
that's so true. That is so true. Men are not allowed to be afraid. Right.
So making it like giving permission, right, to have emotions, right, to have like the wide range, the full spectrum, rather than just like, I can only stop here. I can't like be afraid or anything. I have to be, strong and in action at all times.
But a man and a woman face those fears so that they can be a whole man and a whole woman, or whatever they choose. I don't want to get into all that. But,
yeah, I mean, I would see as a tarot reader, it's like having the masculine, the feminine traits,
yes,
shared.
To be a whole person is really
to be a whole person.
Yes.
Inside.
Yes.
And so teaching that whole personness, at a early age, so that, one is not afraid to voice what it is that they're feeling, and not have to mask it, not have to cover it up.
Well, men are, if you weren't born, as a person who has feelings, then you wouldn't need to worry about it. But since you are born as a person who has feelings, and just like women are born with some, traits that are symbolic of only men. I mean, this is who we are. We are people with thoughts and feelings. So to just, cut off that part of ourselves is not being true to ourselves.
Right.
And not allowing us to evolve. If we can't be afraid, then we never face the fear and we stay stuck. It becomes the wall that keeps us from moving.
Well, yeah, because then it becomes phobia. Yeah.
Phobia. And it becomes like necessary for that extra, ingredient, the alcohol, the whatever, to like, feel more connected or feel like a filter of fear or whatever is removed.
Exactly. it becomes a box in which to live, which is the same thing as being in prison without realizing it.
Sounds like a good title of a book, you know, living in a prison without realizing it, or
right. Self-made.
I liken it to the maze, you know, like the
maze. You
went
got,
up and
yeah,
down
that
the
was
corridors
good.
and you never get out. The only way to get out is to dive into those emotions, heal them, and then replace all those negative feelings with self-love.
Yeah, instead of going round and round and round.
Exactly.
Never finding yourself.
Right.
Yeah. Isn't that what we're all supposed to be doing?
I what kind of dog do you have? It's so cute.
Oh, he's a French bulldog.
Oh.
Anyway, he was scratching the door wanting to go out. So it's like, no, you come over here.
Oh.
Yeah, but he's been making Quasimodo. He sounds, you know, everybody thinks it's my stomach probably.
Oh, that's cute.
Snoring, taking a nap. Yeah. So now where can everybody find you?
My website is www.drdonnamarks.com. Okay. And they can register. I actually teach A Course in Miracles in person and on Zoom every week, and there's no charge for that. And then my books are on there. Right now, Exit the Maze, we have a few copies left, the signed copies left, and it's out of print though. So I saved some for anybody who would like to order one. They can do that right on my website. And once they're gone, because the revised edition is coming out at the end of the year, and that they could pre-order that soon. We don't have it completely ready yet, but soon they'll be able to pre-order it. And then they can get Learn, Forgive on Amazon or on my website. And then the new one is coming out next year, The Healing Moment. That won't be out till next year.
Oh, that sounds really great. That one too.
Thank you.
The 7 keys. Yeah.
One of my consultants suggested a title like that. I just wrote him a letter and said, guess what? You know, the publisher picked it up, and they picked up Exit the Maze too. So it's very, very exciting. Exit the Maze won 25 book awards. I'd self-published it, but because of that, and I met a wonderful book agent, Deborah. I think you know each other. Deborah.
I know. I love Deborah. Yeah.
Oh, she's wonderful. And so she's put me in with this publisher, and this is just how the, you know, divine God, if my understanding works. I really didn't do it much to make that happen. I just wrote the book, put it out there, and you know, just so blessed.
You did your part.
That's
yes.
Wonderful.
Well, we do have to do our part.
Love Jackie, love Deborah.
The clothes are not going to jump out of the closet and get on us. You know, we got to get up.
You're in good company.
Get out the pen.
Yeah, you're in good company. Deborah, Jackie, you know. Yes. And Jackie Jordan, she comes in and talks all the time with us, Jason and I, and we talk about different subjects.
We love our Jackie.
Yes, she's fantastic. Yes.
Yeah.
It's just, I'm like pinching myself every day. I'm like, oh, this is so fun.
Yeah.
It's just so fun to just be with it and let it, you know, happen. It's just, it's the most wonderful feeling in the world. And I feel every day I'm fulfilling my purpose here.
Mm-hmm. Right.
And it's just, I think that's the key to happiness for me.
Yeah, for me
too.
Know,
nothing else made sense before. Now it all makes sense.
Right. I feel very fulfilled and satisfied with my career and my life. And that I believe that is true.
And that's what we're all supposed to be
feeling. Key to happiness. You're right. And to grow and to know that stay healthy. How about you, Jason? How can everybody find you?
I am at Jason D. McKean, JasonDMCKEAN.com. And that has my classes and my books. I have a new book, The Wizard's Tarot Journal, which is you have your spaces to journal your 3-card spreads, and available on Amazon.
Nice.
How about you, Tara? Where are you at?
I am at TaraInsight.com, TaraInsight.com. And I just look forward to, you know, the summer. Summer's going to be great this year, guys.
I agree. Thank you, Dr. Donna, for
Donna Marks,
for an amazing insight, wisdom, and blessings on your journey forward.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for having me on the show. It's an honor.
Yeah, drdonnamarks.com. Okay. Lots of blessings, lots of love. Thank you, everybody.